You're listening to the Fezcast, produced on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and featuring the independent thoughts, rants and rambles of Saracens fans and special guests. If you'd like your opinion to be heard on the show, you can find the Fezcast on Facebook or Fezcast_SSA on Instagram and whatever Twitter is known as these days. But for now, enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome to this week's episode of the Fezcast. I've got no idea which episode number it is, and quite frankly, I don't care, to be honest. But anyway, Barry is with me this week. Barry, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It must be till 27, I think, but don't ask me, I've lost count as well.
We're definitely in the late 20s, I can certainly tell you that. And I mean, I'm the one that's uploading them with a number against them, so if anyone should know, it's me, but there we go. But yeah, it's another week of less rugby than we really want there to be, although we did have the women's fixture this weekend in the middle of a Six Nations fallow week, and Ampthill were playing as well with, I think, 10 Saracens players there, so there is a little bit to talk about, but we're going to do a little bit of gossip. We don't normally do too much gossip, but there does seem to be plenty of it flying around, so we'll probably sink our teeth into that a little bit. But first thing we're going to do, I was at the women's game, and at the end of it, I managed to speak to Alex Austerberry. He gave us a good 15-20 minutes or so of his time, so a pretty good analysis from him after their game. So Barry and myself, we're not going to talk about the women's game at all. We're going to let Alex do it.
This is the Fezcast.
Welcome to this week's Fezcast, back in the Saracens media room again. Delighted to say we've got Alex Austerberry with us this week. Alex, how are you personally? We never ask people that enough.
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a good week. I had a birthday this week, so that was quite fun. A few surprises, including standing up in this very room and be sung happy birthday to you on a chair. So yeah,
very nice.
Yeah, I'm really comfortable with that kind of thing.
I can tell. I mean, the game today was, the scoreline doesn't really say anything. So I think there's something like 33 points in the last 15 minutes. So with the scoreline at 21-19, how are you sort of feeling with 15 minutes to go?
It was a nervous point. You know, we just established a 9-point lead, and they snapped straight back at it and put it to a 2-point game. And with the attacking threat that they have, with the creativity and the ability to score from anywhere, you know, single score games are where you're really nervous.
Absolutely.
But really, really happy with almost like the injection of confidence that came in kind of like last 15-20 minutes, where we started to believe in our own attack. We started to win collisions, get quick ball, and off that kept the ball alive and scored some really good tries. But yeah, I don't think if you look at that scoreline, it does not tell the story of what was a very hard fought and tough game.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously, barring a couple of substitutions, with 15-20 minutes to go, it's almost out of your hands in a way. So is there anything you put it down to, that sort of turnaround in performance?
I think it was. We talked about half time. You know, if we look at the first half, we started well with the try. We ended well with a try, and the bit in between, we defended okay. Like, the defence kept us when it needed to stand up. It did. But again, it was a bit similar to the Harlequins game. We couldn't find an attacking rhythm, or we couldn't find a way to release territorial pressure. We'd always end up back at the same spot almost. So we talked about half time. There was a lot of clarity in the room, some real good conversations on around like these are the potential fix-ups. And I think almost getting hit with that score straight after half time just took a little bit. And then it took time for us to start to establish ourselves, and obviously rode out the yellow card. And then I think we scored towards the end of that yellow card period, and then a few little kind of false starts with what we wanted to look at, and then we got there off the back of some really effective set piece, and credit to everyone involved, and particularly the impact that the players off the bench did make. They gave us a real energy burst, and they gave us a bit of a momentum swing, and we managed to capture that momentum for the majority of that last 15 minutes.
Sure. And I mean, the word on Leicester themselves, having watched them a few times this season, they almost seem to be in a bit of a false position in the league. They're probably a better side than some of the results that they've had. So they really did front up today, didn't they?
Yeah, I think fair credit to their entire programme. To start in a very competitive league in your first season. I know they've done a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and it's it's paying fruition. It's coming to the fore in terms of week in, week out they're in games. They've got some real positive wins, and today 65 minutes gone, people in there, if they'd have gone away with 4 points at that or 5 points at that time, you wouldn't have been surprised. And I think it's a credit to the players. I mean, they've got some great players in there, and then they're obviously doing a lot of things right and moving in the right direction, which is fantastic. I'm just glad that they didn't move too far past us today.
Absolutely.
But again, it's you want to be tested as players, as coaches. You want to play, and certainly that was the case. And I expect them to keep going from strength to strength. And I'm sure that. Our games against them next season will be a step up again from the game at their place, where for 30 minutes they outplayed us, and then for 60-65 minutes today it was nipped up, and it might hopefully be the start of a real competitive rivalry that grows and grows. Hopefully we just keep getting on the right side of it.
And I'm jumping around between all sorts of questions here, but obviously this season it's been a bit of a change with the tenure. Obviously Holly moving on down to Bristol, and Zoe having a long-term injury and being managed back. Just had to use a few different players in the number 10 shirt, but the likes of Amelia and Beth really seem to have stepped up and fronted up playing at 10, and obviously very good to have Zoe back as well. I mean, from a coaching point of view, how difficult has that been to sort of go from having Zoe and Holly, two international standard 10s to choose from, to sort of having to really manage quite carefully? Yeah, I mean, obviously when you're building your squads for seasons and for seasons to come, you're looking at where you can build depth, where you can build competition, and having Zoe come back from injury, we always had a mark on the horizon where we thought she was going to be back in. But also with Amelia, we knew that we've got opportunity to develop her into hopefully an international standard 10 or midfielder, and then we recruited Beth, knowing that she had the flexibility to play across anywhere in midfield. So a lot of it is of our planning, but most importantly, players are here for a reason. We trust in them, we believe in them. So when the opportunity comes, whether through one that they've earned or through through misfortune of someone's injury, then give them the opportunity to shine, and more often than not, players will do that. If you've got confidence in them and they know that, they go out and play with that degree of freedom that allows them to express themselves and play their game. And really happy with how Amelia went. Really happy that Beth's come in and really played on the front foot. And it's brilliant to have Zoe back in contention. And obviously one that we've not mentioned is Flo. Week in, week out in training, she's pushing others to be better. She's got a real kind of clarity on the game, understands the game really well. So having a group of players that can perform at 10, and even Bridget steps in from second receiver to first receiver there, it's really exciting, and you're thinking, right, where can we go with this? And that's probably the next bit for us in terms of our attacking evolution, is how can we capture all this creativity and channel it to give us a real kind of multi-threat midfield that can hopefully lead us on to great things. Yeah, that was excellent for us to hear what goes on behind the scenes. Obviously a bit different to what we see on a match day sometimes, but I mean on the season as a whole, it seems every time we speak to someone, we talk about how disjointed the season is a little bit, but some of it very difficult to manage, obviously with Wasps and Worcester having the struggles that they have. It has sort of become a difficult season with gap weeks and things. You've obviously then got the Six Nations that causes quite a big break coming up. Is that something that's quite difficult to manage for yourselves? Or?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, losing Worcester was devastating.
Yeah.
We got community small. We got a lot of friends there, a lot of personal friends that work there. So it's having a disjointed season is is one of it's kind of pales into significance to that struggles, but it does make things challenging. I think much prefer a flow to the games, and having a bye week and a reserve week just felt like it, as I was saying earlier, it's almost like it could be brilliant if it refreshes you and you come out revitalised. But I thought today we looked like a team that had not been at the coalface for a couple of weeks and playing against a team that have been involved in some pretty tough and tight battles. It looked like they were a bit first to the punch on a few of them. But yeah, it is something that I think as a league we've got to get right. Is you need to be as a fan looking. You need to know what's happening when, and the structure of it. And I think it is challenging having that big break for Six Nations. Obviously, it's a fantastic opportunity for us in the cup and to expose more players to get them ready for league, and to keep those that are not necessarily involved in nationally ticking over and performing and hopefully chasing silverware. But it is challenging, but it's something that we know about. So we hopefully plan accordingly, and then as the global calendar comes more into focus and is being applied, then you're hoping that the flow of the domestic season is better. International camps and tournaments flow better because like this is, if I turn on the TV, this is going to be happening and this is involved, and then all right, in November it's going to be this, and in February, March I know that there's going to be domestic rugby on, and I think that's a bit that we've still got to get right as a league. But
absolutely,
we're an evolving league, and with global calendar coming into play, hopefully that will almost be something that's rectified pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and I suppose it's an added challenge as well. That a good example really. We had Lou and Beth on the show in the wake of the game against Quins, and both of them mentioned that, not that it's an excuse or anything, but the 2 nights of training that you had prior to that game, it was absolutely hosing down with rain, and wasn't easy to prepare for. And I suppose when you have only got access to your players for smaller amounts of time than a fully professional team, it does add some extra difficulties.
Yeah, but again, it's what we've known.
Yeah.
So it's not an alien concept. Almost if we had everyone in all the time, that would be the bit where we'd have to do some real learning and speaking with Phil, speaking with other programs about how they manage that kind of transition from being a professional program with access to some players full time, some part time, some just sessional, to then being a full time program. It is something that we are planning for now and having conversations so that that's the bit that we understand, rather than almost kind of go, well, we know this bit. This has been our world. These are the waters that we swim in. But yeah, quite literally, we were swimming in waters on Tuesday, Thursday. It was horrendous. But again, we might play in those conditions.
Absolutely.
So how do we adapt? We can take learnings about, did we adapt well? Did we try play with too much width in those training sessions? We were trying things that might not have been weather appropriate. How do you manage game and territory when it's chucking it down? You probably don't want too much ball. So it is useful, but yeah, it is a challenge. But again, it's not one that we're blindsided by. It's one that we're fully aware of, and most importantly, that the players fully understand those challenges. And it's how can we maximise the time that we're in together? How can we make sure that we don't waste the minutes, because they're very precious for us.
Absolutely. And so it's 5 games left of the league season, spread out over about 6 months, and 3 of those are against 3 of the current top 4 plus yourselves. So there's obviously a few markers to be laid down going into the rest of the season, but also with that top 4 is almost set as it is. So planning ahead for the run into, in theory, a home semi-final. Not quite there yet, but
first and foremost, obviously my job is to make sure that we are planning and have planned ahead. But also it's to make sure that everyone else we're in the moment, and the moment is Bristol away.
Yep.
If it's going to be a very big challenge, and we know it's going to be incredibly tough against a very good side. But if we take care of business there, it's another step towards. I think that would guarantee qualification for top 4.
Yes.
Yeah. So then that's another step, and then the next time we're together against Sale, I believe, can we take care of business then to take care of another step. And then ultimately, if you break it down to the things that you can control, which is the little bits, then the big picture takes care of itself. But obviously, we want to first and foremost secure playoffs, and then every team will be pushing for that home semi-final. And with the work that we've done today, we've put ourselves in a good position. But as you said there, we got a lot of competition against the teams around us, which will dictate where we finish. Hopefully it won't be a defining point of our season, because hopefully that'll be the knockout rugbies of semi-finals and finals that will define that. But it's an important part of the season, and it's something that home semi-finals big, and we want to be here at Stonex with the crowd behind us. We know how challenging it is when you're on the road in the semi-final, so we quite like to be on home turf. But that said, if we don't get that, back ourselves at any opposition anywhere. But it's nice to have the comforts of home.
Yeah, absolutely. Two more if that's all right.
Yeah.
So also within that, there is a cup semi-final as well.
Yeah.
Which is something to look forward to for us. And the cup side that was played obviously towards the start of the season is good. Seems to be a very good mix of experience and youth, obviously with players missing during internationals and things. I'm assuming the plan is still similar going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That cup serves a real purpose for us, and it is making sure that we are getting the players who've been on the fringes of the first team, that they're now knocking on the door of first team. The players that need some minutes get minutes, but also the real one of the real key focuses is bringing through our youngsters. It's exposing Amelia in the cup, so she's ready to run out in the league. Chloe Flanagan, Joya Bennett, Gemma Joe, and there's a host of players that we have in our group that we know we're going to give match minutes to in the cup, and that we might send the dual register with the Royals and other clubs.
Yeah,
it's a fundamental part of our future, and our future proofing as a programme. So the cup, it's nice to be playing in knockout rugby, as I said to the players, meaningful moments in meaningful minutes, and knockout rugby semi-finals and hopefully finals are great learning exposures for those players. We get to see different pictures, we get to understand how they react to different stresses, because again that's part of their learning as well, and then that's invaluable with then kind of their transition into first team league rugby. So the cup is hugely important. Hopefully we can go one step further than last year, but I will look back on the cup. It'd be nice to have silverware, but certainly with a view of how much further did those players develop, and how much further they pushed on during that first block of the cup and then this second block. It's a nice time window for us to really get some individual development focusing. You're not week to week games. It's right, this is the block, these are the two fixtures. Well, we're going to have two fixtures in there, and these are the individual bits that we're working on with these players, so that at the very least they've moved forward and got better.
That's all part of a big picture, I guess, isn't it? And on a very similar line, actually, we've spoken to a lot of players over the course of the last few years, and one consistent thing is everyone saying how well they're looked after and the opportunities they get, and the opportunity to have a rest and things as well. And with that in mind, a really good example is Sophie being off with Canada. Looking forward to hopefully playing Olympic sevens, I think is the big plan for that. I mean, was there quite a big discussion around letting her go for that?
It's not in all honesty, like, I want the best for our players. I don't want to go out to chinnies, and you could look at it bluntly, I don't want to be the person that stops someone being an Olympian. If we look after any player right, we have their best interests at our heart. And ultimately, like for me, Sophie having the opportunity to try compete, for a shot for Canada at the Paris Olympics, like that's brilliant for her. It's something that she probably dreamed of as a kid. So we'll support that, and by doing that, what we get back is a reinvigorated, energised Sophie that knows that as a club we will do our best for her, and ultimately, that pays back. If players know that you truly do have their best interests at heart, they will run through brick walls for you, and they will be people that stay at the club for a long time and drive us forward. So I think she went quite well yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah, I've not watched it, I'm afraid, but it doesn't surprise me that she won't leave a stone unturned in trying to get that Olympic spot, and we look forward to seeing her back post Pac 4, just in time hopefully for certainly knockout rugby, but hopefully a home semi-final as well.
Yeah, it's a busy time for her, but obviously someone we want to stick around, so pissing her off if she can't go is not a...
No, and it is that. I mean, it makes no sense. There's not a way that I'd look at that and say it's the wrong thing. It's absolutely the right thing, and it'd be amazing for her to not just captain a country at 15s, but to potentially be an Olympian. Something pretty special, and for us as a club to play a small part in that, it's pretty important.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, Alex, thank you very much for joining us on the Fezcast. Really appreciate your time.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Yeah, so great to hear from Alex post-match. Obviously, plenty for him to dissect there. But yeah, we'll pick up on a couple of bits. Firstly, we did discuss the women's season at the moment. Obviously, we've been moaning like stink that February and March we don't have any men's club rugby to watch particularly, and it feels like a long old break. But the women's season has been pretty disjointed in itself, which we spoke about there. There's break weeks pretty much once a month really, and it's obviously fairly difficult to get into. I mean, has it meant that the season for you, Barry, has been a little bit weird to watch, trying to work out when there's matches and when there aren't? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been tricky with both the men's and the women's, obviously with the World Cup and other commitments. It have all been a little bit stop-start and a little bit bitty. I mean, I've seen some suggestions that maybe next season it will be different because there's no World Cup to fit in it. But it just seems that they could both be tied together a little bit neater if people just sort of sat down and talked about it a little bit more.
Absolutely, yeah. And Alex elsewhere has certainly spoken about the fact that he wants the global calendar to be a lot better aligned within the women's game in isolation and also with the men's game as well, just making sure there are blocks of matches and things. But nonetheless, it was a very good win against Leicester on paper, as we discussed there. I think putting 50 points on them didn't really tell the full story for them, but it means that there's another 5 games left of the season to play over the next 6 months, and with a shot of a home semi-final. But the one thing we do need to talk about, Barry, because it's definitely riled a few people up, is the choice of the final for the PWR season. It was put out to tender. It went to Sandy Park. They're hosting it for the first time, but it has certainly upset a few, hasn't it, Barry? Yeah,
I understand why it would upset a few because I mean, the point's been made that we don't complain when Leinster have the final in Dublin, and we don't. Potentially, we have the final at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the European competitions, but it is slightly different because those are announced a couple of years and they're not actually home ground. So this does just seem a bit odd. I mean, I would so much like them to have a finals weekend where maybe the women's game on the Friday night and the men's final on the Saturday at Twickenham. I'm sure that it can't be beyond the realms of possibility to sort out something like that where we can actually tie the two together and have a proper weekend of it. But this just seems a little bit odd to be announcing it this late in the season.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. And I mean, I'm sure whether it's a double header at Twickenham or whether it's a standalone event, I'm sure that is going to be the ultimate goal. And I mean, I don't think this is any disrespect to the women's game, but last season's final at Kingsholm, I think it just about touched 10,000 in attendance, possibly. I think it was 9,500, something like that. Seasons previous, it's been around 3, and obviously, atmosphere-wise, I think we need more people coming along to that final and to make sure that Twickenham has the atmosphere that it should do. But we've obviously seen from England women's games at Twickenham, it will work, and hopefully the club game can get there soon. But yeah, definitely take the point. It's probably frustrating that there's, last season it was at Kingsholm, Gloucester Hartpury were playing in the final. This season it's at Sandy Park, and if everything goes to form, it's going to be Exeter playing against us at the Stonex for the right to play in the final at their home ground. And I can see why it's tricky for some people, but hopefully this is a case of the final just being shared around the grounds a little bit. It's in seasons past, it was in London. It's been in Northampton as well, but it's been very much London centric. And for the West Country, which is a big hotbed of rugby, to have it for a few years running isn't quite so bad. If it's at Sandy Park next season as well, I might have a bit more to say probably. But there we go. I don't know, Barry. I don't know what the solution is really at the moment.
No, as I say, I mean, the obvious is some sort of finals weekend if they can sell the tickets. And again, to go back to that, if that was announced at the beginning of the season, they've got a very long run up to tickets, and I reckon they could do it.
No, I think that's very fair. I mean, yeah, hopefully, ultimately, that is the case, and the attendances are only going up, and we don't have to talk about that anymore. But yeah, there we go. It is what it is. But yeah, away from the women's game now. It's been a very good weekend for them, but we'll have to shift on. I think it's time that we talked about. Well, look, we're going to do number 10 again, because actually this is the first time we're recording since Owen Farrell's move to Racing has actually been confirmed by Saracens. I mean, there's not a huge amount to talk about with that on its own, because we've kind of done it to death over the last couple of months. But the rumour mill for who's going to replace Owen Farrell started a long time ago, before there was even many rumours that Owen was actually leaving. And now we've finally got there, Barry. It's actually got a little bit quiet, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's reasonably typical Saracens. A lot of the time, the first time we hear a name is when Saracens are tweeting out that these contracts or whatever. So, and I think that's a great way of conducting your business as well. We don't have to do everything via the media.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's a lot of people that have said, yeah, there's people on social media that are sort of frustrated that they're not really hearing anything from the club about signings that we've made. And there's 2 points to that. One is that you're absolutely right. We're very good at keeping a lid on most bits of news. And the other one is, I think I had a look at the ins and outs so far this season, and I think across the entire league there are 4 confirmed signings for next season. So no one's making any moves yet. I can't remember who those 4 are. I'm not going to reel them off. But what I am going to reel off, just for a laugh, is all of the fly halves that we've been rumoured with over the last 2 months. Are you ready for this?
It's like the generation game. Is it going to be a cuddly toy on there somewhere?
A conveyor belt from, I mean, I wish I had this in order of sublime to ridiculous, but it's almost there. So initially we had Paolo Garbisi and Paddy Jackson, didn't we? And obviously the club were very quick to quash the Paddy Jackson rumours, and Garbisi has since had his contract bought out by Toulon, so we can disappear from that. But we've had Callum Sheedy, we've had Adam Hastings, we've had Joey Carberry, Billy Burns, Gareth Anscombe, Reece Patchell. Damien McKenzie was the best one. I think, if Damien McKenzie's going to sign for Saracens, then I would offer to clean his boots every week, but it's just not going to happen, is it? We've had Nicholas Sanchez, Aaron Cruden, Orlando Bailey was one, I think, from Bath as well. But the only name that has really stuck so far, and actually is the one that people have been talking about the least, is Louis Johnson at Newcastle, who's 20 years old, obviously someone that we'd be looking at for the future, and actually someone that we're looking at more by the sounds of it, because there's potentially Manu Vunipola's moving on as well. And I'd imagine that not many of us have seen an awful lot of Louis Johnson, but I know he's highly rated, and actually I think he had a reasonably good game in the time that he played at the Stonex for Newcastle against Saracens. Don't know if you've seen an awful lot yourself, Barry, but
I haven't.
I know you want Damien McKenzie to sign for us, of course, but
well, yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen a lot of Louis, to be honest with you, but it certainly fits with what we and other people have been thinking is probably the option that will start next season with Alex Rosowski as first choice 10 and look to bring in a younger guy to back him up and give us a little bit of differential. I mean, presumably they'll still be looking at potentially Alex Good playing there as well from time to time. So interesting times. But yeah, I mean, it would be great to bring in a big name, but I'm guessing with some signings that we've or re-signings that we've confirmed, there probably isn't a huge amount of money left in the pot. I don't know.
I'd imagine you're probably right. I'm just going to interrupt us because Duncan has joined us for what is probably roughly the second half of this show. Hello, Duncan. You all right?
I'm all right. I didn't realise what the time was.
Professional and punctual as we normally are. Well, we've just been covering all of the fly halves that we're signing, and yeah, it's going to be Damien McKenzie and Louis Johnson from Newcastle. So we're doing all right there so far.
I'm glad you sorted that out. I wanted to know that.
You and all the other supporters, I think.
Exactly, and yeah, there's plenty flying around. But I mean, there's a couple of other positions just to focus on because I think there's a few people that it sounds like we may have signed in all but confirmation, and one from a long time ago really was another Newcastle player, Phil Brantingham at Loosehead, who again had a very good game against us, and was someone that was mentioned when our scrum was probably at its worst. I'm going to use the word worst. When we were really struggling and when we were being folded in half by Newcastle's front row shortly before we signed Lagovi Mulipola on a short-term deal. But he's one Loosehead that we're apparently looking at, as is a former Saracen as well, Rhys Carey, who had a blinding game for Cardiff recently as well, didn't he?
You've got to feel sorry for Newcastle, haven't you? They've gone to try and stay afloat. They've gone for this process of producing their own. And the minute they're any good, everyone else nicks them. But they are two positions that we needed to cover. So what the hell?
No, absolutely. And on Rhys Carey, though, Barry, would you like to see him back at the club? Because he's sort of he's been put down a little bit by some of the Welsh public and certainly by Warren Gatland lately. But I think there's something about him that we could definitely do with.
I think there certainly was in his first spell, but I don't know. Is it a wise move to to go back to somewhere where it didn't really quite work? Yeah, who knows? Maybe a change of location and a change of league is again what he needs. But I'm convinced. But heck, there are people at Saracens who know way more who've forgotten more about rugby than I'll ever know. So
I guess the lesson we've learnt this season is it's very easy to get short of props, get a few injuries and you're in trouble. So you sort of need those solid players to be there for when the inevitable injuries come.
Well, definitely. I mean, you look at we've talked about Ralph Adams-Hale many times on this show, and most of the time because he isn't playing rather than because he is. I don't know how much longer we give him to be a part of the squad, really, because I want him to recover from his various injuries and do well, because we saw enough in the limited game time that he's had that he's a player that could be high class, but he does just look like one of those that's ultimately going to have a very injury hit career if he has a career at all. But Sam Crean seems to have come back in though after a long-term injury, and he'll basically be like a new signing and a young player as well. So there's a few players out there.
And on the other side, Harvey Beaton's suddenly been eating his Weetabix. He looks a giant now, doesn't he? And I saw him play on Saturday and put in a solid performance again as well.
Yes, well, hold that thought for a second, because I'm just going to talk about a couple of the other players that we might sign, according to idiots in the media. Mason Grady, that'd be lovely, wouldn't it? But yeah, let's ignore that. I enjoyed the rumour from Rugby Pass. I mean, I suppose this could happen, but George Bridge, who is someone who I forgot was actually playing rugby still. I think he had about 3 months where he was the best thing since sliced bread for New Zealand, and then to me he disappeared off the face of the earth. But someone who's been playing wing/fullback in a Montpellier team that's not doing particularly well, although it's recovering a little bit at the moment, and I think they're looking to have a bit of a fire sale in the summer, so we could pick up a player or two from them. But I've not seen anything of him, to be honest. I don't even know. I can't say anything at all. Duncan, you watch a bit of French rugby. Have you seen much of him?
No, I haven't seen Montpellier. You're right. It's ever since they sacked Richard Cockrell, they started winning, which is interesting. And now they've overtaken Perpignan, which is a cause of great angst for me. But no, I haven't seen any of the players.
Yeah. So, well, we'll have to wait and see on that one. But the one that, again, looks like, according to a few people, we're actually winning a race to sign is Sam Spink, who is another one of the Wasps' refugees, if we can call them that, who's plying his trade for the Force in Australia. And again, it looks like another one that's eaten almost a few too many Weetabix, actually. A very physical centre, and I think someone that, if we are looking to move Lazowski to number 10, signing another centre and another young centre is a pretty good move, right?
Does it mean that we've given up on our two Argentinians, though? If Sinti is another centre, means there's a lot of competition for centre with Ollie Hartley coming through, and we've got some great ones that, Josh Hallett, man of the match against Leinster, etc. We'd have a few centres, wouldn't we?
Yep, we certainly seem to be linked with a few players, and I play at centre. I mean, I'd still like to see Ben Harris given a go at centre. I mean, he looks like a physical specimen to me. Appreciate he was playing on the wing at the weekend, and maybe Duncan can give us his thoughts on that. But I've always liked the look of him as a player, as fast as he is, and he is a physical size that is just incredible for a winger.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I would sort of go back to Duncan a little bit and look at. I'd say that just because we're looking at signing Spink doesn't necessarily mean that we've given up on Sinti, because just sort of the way the squad would have to evolve a little bit. One, we've been playing Sinti on the wing a fair bit, and we haven't got many of them, really. And I think it also, we'd potentially be looking at Elliot Daly and not playing him in the 13 shirt quite as much. I think he'd maybe play at 15 a bit more, and a bit more on the wing as well, possibly. So I think there's a bit of room for shuffling around, particularly if you effectively lose Alex Lazowski from centre and potentially Alex Good from the 15 shirt a little bit as a backup 10. There is a bit of a shuffling of the deck to have. I mean, but yeah, Ben Harris at centre, that's a bold call. I like it.
He is big. When he was warming up in front of us at Franklin's Gardens last, recognised him at first. I was like, who the heck is that? And I looked at him and I thought, well, he's got to be a centre. And then when he turned around, I realised who it was, and I thought, blimey, he really is a physical specimen of a player,
and quick, as you say.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever played centre, has he?
No, I don't
no idea.
He was a sevens player, really, wasn't he? So he played everything. But it's, yeah, that'd be interesting, because I think a lot of, partly the reason why he's not maybe played an awful lot as much in the first team for Saracens is I think there was a little bit of question around his positioning, which if you're a former sevens player is fair enough, because it's just grab ball, run fast in my eyes. But that side of things needs to develop, and it would need to develop quite a lot, I guess, to play a centre. But yeah, he is certainly much more physical than I think he gets a lot of credit for. But talking about Ben Harris is a good way to segue into where Duncan's been this weekend. Let's do that. So Ampthill played. Duncan, how many Saracens players were in the Ampthill team? I said 10 earlier, but I'm not sure I'm right.
There were 10 starters, none on the bench, but still 10 is a heck of a lot. So 2/3 of the team were Saracens. And, we've talked about this long break before. And last weekend, you had a choice of fantastic match with the women on Sunday. And I really would recommend going to Ampthill to everyone. It is, I think charming is the word. We arrived there and there's been a bit of rain lately, and you get out of the car onto what can be called a wide expanse of mud. There's a little clubhouse there, and we had a fantastic roast dinner with beer at £4.50 a pint, and then wandered up this path through the woods to emerge at the top, on the top of a hill in picturesque countryside, to stand on a bank of grass at the side of the pitch and watch 10 Sarries players and a few others play London Scottish. It was a great day.
Absolutely was. Well, I'll tell you what, before we talk a little more about the game, why don't we play in a little chat that you had in between having issues with technology and people's names. Duncan's post-match chat with a couple of players. So let's have a quick listen to that.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis, and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
I'm here at the very picturesque Ampthill ground with my friend Chris, who's come to give me some technical support because I've never used this iPhone microphone before. We're just walking through the woods at Ampthill back to the clubhouse where we're hoping to speak later to a couple of the 10 Saracens players who started for Ampthill. Chris, were there any standout performances for you?
Oh, I think Josh Hallett proved again he's a very, very, very good player with 2 tries, I believe, wasn't it?
At least one that I saw.
I thought it might have been 2. But
Santama Jamie showed his power again, didn't he? And while he was on, Chris Bracken, I thought was very good.
Charlie Bracken.
Charlie Bracken.
But I'm sure he won't punish you too much for that. Toby Knight, very good as well.
Yeah, a lot of good performances.
Really good performances there.
The link up between Tobias Elliott at 15 and Brandon Jackson on the wing was also very good.
Superb.
So in the end, a comfortable win for Ampthill after a tough first half. As I say, we'll be hoping to speak to a couple of the players in a minute. Okay, I'm here with Josh Hallett and Toby Knight. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. Tough match. Congratulations on the win. Seemed a lot tighter in the first half than the second. Was there anything particularly changed apart from having the wind at your back?
Well, I think the wind was massive. We probably didn't realise how big it was in that first half, I don't think. It just felt like we were pinned in our own half and we couldn't get out. But, if you feel like that, what are they going to feel like in the second half? And I think we took that, flipped on its head and just pinned them back in their half. And once you do that, you get momentum. It's hard for them to get out. They don't feel like they can get out. And we just keep doing it again.
And they were barely out of their half, were they? A little bit towards the end of the game, but for most of that second half,
exactly.
You did have them pinned back.
Yeah, I'm think mentally for us, being in their half, you feel on top, and they obviously don't feel on top. So I think that influences how we play, get momentum, and put it back.
And it really was effective. And
not to mention the slope in the second half as well helps a lot, especially when you're knackered from that first half. But the slope definitely helps. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. I noticed the wind. I didn't notice the slope, I've got to be honest. But it seems as if there's a bunch of you now. You're appearing in the first team. It must be exciting times for a bunch of you playing together and being on the cusp, it seems, of really breaking in regularly and following on from Ollie and the rest and doing that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Any time to put on a Saracens shirt is obviously a privilege. So, we're all really grateful. But it's also we're really grateful to Ampthill as well to come down here and give us some game time and practice things that we may not be able to do in a Saracens shirt or on the training field. It's perfect practice for us, and we're super grateful for that. But
it seems a great system, to be able to play in really competitive games in what a tough league. I mean, Saracens saw it when we went down and were beaten by Pirates. It's not an easy league, is it?
No, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, the physicality obviously is massive when you come here. Big lads, in every team. But yeah, as Toby was saying, I think, especially in this period, it's a bit weird. There's no games for Saracens. It's a great opportunity for us to get a bit of momentum. We saw the game last week. Good run out at Stonex and trying to follow on with that momentum, coming here. And it's good to get a few lads who know the same system because we run the same system here as we do at Sarri. So it's basically like playing Sarries but with different boys. So it's
sounds ridiculously well organised. That
it is. You can thank JT and Chippy for that.
yeah. And congratulations to you for man of the match and a great try last week. And was it 1 or 2 this week?
Only one this week.
Only one.
Only right at the end as well.
Both of them excellent. Last week and this week. So congrats on that. I just noticed. Was it a big boy who gave you that shiner?
I managed to pick these up pretty much every game. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but yeah, this one's quite small compared to a few of the ones I had last week. But I've been a bit stupid today. I think I've carried into the wrong lads round the breakdown. They're just standing there waiting for me, and I've just put my head down and gone, "Oh, here we go again." But
there's no TMO to catch them either.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why they get away with it.
It is what it is.
Okay, well, thanks very much, fellas. I won't hold you back from your meal any longer. But thanks very much for talking to us, and congrats.
Cheers for coming down.
Congrats once again.
Cheers for coming down. Cheers.
Thanks, bye.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
So that was Duncan's effort post match at Ampthill, and it's a fantastic place to be, isn't it? Really, we were talking about it. Well, actually, we were recording. I could put that in, really, but let's actually talk about it properly. Just how nice but odd some of the quirks of Ampthill are, really, including the walk through the woods, which can take you off in about 9 different directions for miles, can't it?
Yeah. I think it just shows what a lot of fun we missed with COVID coinciding with our year in the championship. It was a great shame. And I'd just like to say that for me, he will always be Chris Brackham. Just as well, I had my mate Chris, which is why I think I had Chris on the mind. I had there because he's the IT manager at work, and using this new bit of kit, I thought I'd have him there for technical backup, but he managed to do a bit more than that and correct me when I got people's names wrong, which is a bit of a basic error.
Well, that's I mean, we could always take the piss because at the end of the day, we usually leave the naming issues to Jez, but it's obviously catching. I do it all the time now as well, and so do you. I mean, the best one was Elliot Obertoyimbo. By the time he managed to get our teeth round saying his surname properly, he left. So,
but what I would say is that I just have this feeling, that young players tend to come through in generations. There's often a batch of them, and there's 10 good ones there. I mean, take, for example, he seems to have been around forever, but he's only 22, which is a good age, isn't it, to start really, showing your mettle, getting those chances as a sub and seeing what you can do. And there's a whole host of them there that I think are really, really good prospects.
Yeah, I mean, having just had a conversation about potential new signings and things, I think, we promote our academy and the conveyor belt it churns out. And I think, next season, I know a lot of people won't accept it, but if the season doesn't go so well, if we're losing a few key players, I'd much rather it went less well because we've given some of our young guns a bit of a go. I mean, the likes of Harvey Beaton, Brandon Jackson, even Tobias Elliott, I think, who's a good, promising young player, deserve a bit of a chance. I mean, Barry, would you want to sign 5, 6, 7 players from other clubs, or give some of these guys a go next season?
No point about if you don't give these guys a chance if they're good enough. And I mean, we've spoken often before on this podcast about, we get the feeling the changing of the guard, the end of our golden generation previously, even likes of Jamie and Owen and all that coming through, and it's time for the new guys to have a go. Yeah,
it's that blend, isn't it? I mean, we saw at the beginning of this season when they're all thrown in at once in the Prem Cup. It's a bit too much and they get battered. Hopefully we can see what we saw over the past year with Theo Dan coming on a bit more, and suddenly he's starting. And hopefully with a lot of these players, they'll get that chance.
I'd hope you're right, yeah. And I mean, I'm just looking at the results that Ampthill have had this season. They're sitting mid-table, having played the vast majority of their games with roughly 7 or 8 Saracens players within that, and you think, well, okay, if maybe 2, 3 or 4 of them are now regular within the Saracens lineup, it's not that they're hidden by better and more experienced players around them, but there is you can do that in a way. You can have someone playing in the second row alongside Maro Itoje and being dragged along a little bit. There's no issue with that whatsoever.
I was speaking to the director of rugby there at Ampthill after the game, and he was very interested. And he was saying how much he emphasises to our players in particular that if they want to get their chance at Saracens, they've got to dominate games at Ampthill. And I think, Josh Hallett and Toby Knight were talking about the fact that they're up against big guys in a competitive championship, and the pressure is being put on them in a way to dominate in that league so that they can get their chance for the first team at Saracens.
That's exactly right. And yeah, we going forward, I think we'd hope to actually have some of the guys from Ampthill on this show, really, and that's kind of my fault because I was supposed to arrange it about September time. And yeah. But yeah, we definitely switch because obviously that relationship is working very well, and long may it continue. And yeah, we could reap the benefits of it next season, potentially even this season as well. Like you say, someone like Toby Knight, who is appearing for Ampthill on the odd occasion, but also is playing for Saracens in the Premiership. So
that's right. Just before the game, I arrived at the same time as Juan Figaro, who parked his car next to our car, and I was hoping to get a word with him, but he had to rush off straight after the game because something had gone off at home. But he arrived with Juan Martin Gonzalez in the same car, and I managed to just about stop myself. I had just about enough pride not to fall at his feet and say, "Please sign." Please. Because boy, that would be like a star signing if he agrees to stay, won't it?
Would. I think the vast majority of our listeners are now shouting at their respective audio devices, saying, "Duncan, why didn't you beg on behalf of all of us?"
It was muddy.
I'm sure if you knew he was going to be there, you'd have taken a folded up piece of paper and said, "Autograph, please." And then when he signed it, sort of unravelled it and said, "Oh, this is a contract. Well done."
Someone might have thought of that. No, we ended up talking about the wine and food of Mendoza. Well, I think which he was a lot more interested in talking about.
Yeah, I think I would be as well.
You know, actually, when you mentioned Gonzalez, I'm gonna chuck in my mini rant, which isn't really a rant, but I keep seeing people saying, "Oh, why aren't we trying to sign him?"
As if we aren't.
As if we're not. And the same with Lucio Cinti as well. I'm sure it's not that we're not trying to sign.
Oh, God, they hadn't thought of that.
Well, apparently they're still signing in as visitors at OAs when they turn up for. That's how disorganised we are.
Yeah, look, of course we're going to be trying to sign him, but at the end of the day, there is also, although it's going up, there is a salary cap to meet, and there is also a pretty strong back row at Saracens without him. And, you know, we can't sign everyone.
You know, I think I might have said it on the programme before. I am sure he has got the choice of umpteen clubs, not just Northampton, who've been in the papers and who badly need him, having lost two world-class looks and sixes. But there must be French teams as well having an eye on him.
Oh, yeah. That's it. So if he does end up signing for someone else, I really hope people don't throw their toys out the pram and say, "Oh, why didn't we try and get him?" I'm sure he has been offered as much as we can possibly afford to give him.
And he probably arrived with Juan Figaro because they've got him on the job as well, trying to sweet talking into staying in Spanish.
Absolutely. Well, look, to be honest, the whole reason for talking about all of this transfer gossip is for, I think, 3 weeks now, there's been some breaking news from the club about 2 hours after we released the show. So now, having spoken about all of these players that we want to sign, hope to sign, will sign, won't sign, it's all going to come out today. And we shall see. Maybe we'll have to do an emergency recording when Damien McKenzie does sign for Saracens, and I do have to go and clean his boots, but there we go. Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. We'll be back again next week.
What are we going to talk about?
Rapidly running out of things to talk about. There is a women's game down at Bristol, which is going to be a big one for us before they have a break themselves. And I suppose we will have to talk about some Six Nations rugby as well, because if we don't, then it's a very short show and maybe we'll have to go on holiday as well, but we shall see. But yeah, anyway. Barry, Duncan, thank you very much.
Cheers. Lovely to be here, even if I'm late.
Professional as ever. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
This is the Fezcast.